Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our final episode of the season. Can't believe it's gone by so quick. I know it means maybe a third of our followers now have lost money. They probably put a wage on us only doing 2 or 3 episodes, but we made it to 7, so you guys can 8. We made it to 8, yeah, so they can read between the lines. No, I'm just kidding. We've had a lot of support so far, and we hope to continue to maintain and gain some more support. But, we're glad that you came along with us.
Yeah.
And to finish off this season, Cameron and I decided that we're going to be talking about the best final albums of artists.
That was before we realized that you guys really don't like lists, so hopefully in the next season we learn our lesson and don't make so many lists.
We're going to make this one a little shorter, so it's okay. It's fine. But statistically speaking, you guys could care less about our list. They could really, really care. They really like when we talk about like individual artists. You guys really, really like that. But when I guess when you hear two dudes speak
about their opinions about their favorite albums, you're like, I could care less.
and we appreciate and understand that.
You're like, I could go watch Mojo.
It doesn't really help my ego, but you know what? I guess you guys didn't really care what my ego was to begin with. So to kind of get that started with lists that we think matter and the only ones that matter, Cameron, go ahead and I should probably talk about how we're setting it up today. So we're kind of down to 5. 10 we might have learned is a bit excessive. Granted, the 10 that we did on the other list, I'm still okay with. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't give it back for the world. Maybe we should have done like a weird, odd, obscure number like 8 or maybe 7, just to make people really mad. Like, it's like, why do they have 7? But no, we just cut it down to 5 today, and we're super excited for it.
Yeah. So we're talking about final albums, and what is defined in our opinion as a final album is there is a lot of hope that there's going to be more albums from these artists. Some of these artists that are still alive, I guess there's potential that they could make another album, but it doesn't look like that. So we are just talking about albums, especially like artists that have passed. They're definitely not making another album. So that's kind of what defines a final album. We're not talking about like an artist's last album, because Brandon would put Taylor Swift's, what was her new one called? Not Folklore.
Evermore.
Evermore. That would be his number 1 right away.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
All right.
Well, I do kind of want to pause on something you said. You said even if they're dead, they can't make more albums. I thought there's like a famous Tupac quote. What does it go?
Nothing can kill me but death. Unfortunately, he didn't make the list. But how about we start off with some honorable mentions? I know that we both share one honorable mention, and that being Let It Be from the Beatles. I think neither of us really were into the album as much as we are into like the rest that are on our list. But it's the Beatles' final album. I think the biggest thing that you can take away from this album is definitely that it was showing that their time had come. Like they were recording separate, that they weren't gonna be together for much longer. So it's kind of an iconic breakup album.
Yeah, I think that's the one where they're on the rooftop. I think the rooftop is associated with the final album, and that makes it. It does kind of have that sound like, what, guys, this is the end. We're not going to be making anything like Rubber Soul, Revolver, the White Album, or even an Abbey Road. Personally, if Abbey Road would have been their last album, I probably would have put that on the list, even though that is even lower on than I have some of the other Beatles albums. But Let It Be is still a great album. One After 909, great. Honestly, that's for some reason a song that I just like love by them for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, so that's both of our honorable mentions.
And then my last honorable mention, or my other honorable mention, we only did 2 this time, is going to be Johnny Cash's American 4. I think that it's pretty sad as an album, just because you can kind of tell Johnny Cash just knows that he's going to not be around for much longer to make another one. His covers are particularly the most popular on this album, specifically his "Hurt" by the Nine Inch Nails cover. But I personally like his Rusty Cage cover too. I think he just brought that wise, like the regrets. Like he had a lot of regrets, and it was almost like him just like it's kind of like that mentor talking down to like say like, you don't want to do what I've done. Like like it was, I don't know how to explain it necessarily. It was just kind of like him saying like he had a lot of regrets and that he's gonna have to live with it for as long as he has left, or you know what I'm saying?
Just like a few months.
Yeah, just a few months. He's like, I could last a few more months.
Yeah. And I know some of you who have heard this album are probably going to put like a major like gunshot like bullet into my brain, like, you know, like a big hole in my head, blood everywhere. But Black Star by David Bowie, which might be a hot take on my honorable mentions, it's very close. It was very close. It was not easy. It would have ideally been on my list, but then I got to thinking, and I was like, okay, these are the albums I'd rather have.
Yeah, I was a little surprised it wasn't on your list, like at like not even number 5, because like you were showing me what you had on there, and it just seemed like you would have liked that one a lot too. But
I don't know. I think my favorite Bowie album is still Aladdin Sane. I don't know why. It's just like the most random like album by his delight, but for some reason it's my favorite. That or Hunky Dory.
Hunky Dory is pretty good. Do you want to lead off with your number 5, or would you like me to?
No, man, no, bro. See, males have been controlling this world for 2,000 years, and, you know, now it's time for the women to go first.
I'm sorry, was that a insult towards me?
No, I'm just saying I want you to go first.
Calling me a woman. So, since we're talking about so much death today, you know, these artists had died, as depressing as this may be. I feel like we should celebrate the life that comes after death, specifically Life After Death by Biggie Smalls. You actually turned me towards this album way back to our sophomore albums. I don't think you made it on your list. It was like an honorable mention, or we just briefly talked about it. I think you said you were surprised it didn't make our list, which made me go and listen to this album. It actually made me go back and listen to both of Biggie's albums, and it kind of just clicked almost immediately, because like I feel it's super interesting to see where his discography would have continued, because both of his albums are actually connected, and I don't think a lot of people realize that Life After Death is actually about so in Ready to Die, the main protagonist ends up killing himself. And Life After Death is the main protagonist from Ready to Die's best friend, going on about his life, and just trying to like it's almost like he develops like schizophrenia, and he's always like willing his dead friend back into existence, and it's super dark, and it's just like, but it's also like it has that hip hop, but it's the East Coast hip hop, so it's not really like bumping like West Coast, but it's still, you know,
it's deeper. It touches the soul more. Like, you know, if you want to listen to like West Coast music, you're just going to a party and sipping on gin and juice like that. That's it. But with like East Coast, you're just gonna have to sit down and just reflect. And
yeah,
it's a good reflecting album.
It is a really good reflecting album. I think I'm drawing a blank on the name of the song. It was it's not the biggest song off the album. It's like the second biggest that I really liked. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do. Let me.
I was gonna say I can't think of it. I'm really drawing a blank.
Unprepared.
I mean.
Nah, you're good. What song did you say?
That's what I'm saying. What was the one with the? That's not. Yeah, well, Hypnotize is on it, and then I was going to see...
Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Yeah, I think that was the... The introduction to it is also kind of like down to, like it's, like, very gritty, because I know, like, in Ready to Die, it was, like, more of, like, a orchestra intro,
it's like
wasn't
build
it?
up, but this is like
Yeah, but this one was just like, yep, this isn't going to be the same thing. Like this one's,
it's like the grits you get at Cracker Barrel.
yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, you basically touched on everything I said. If I had to pick between Biggie and Tupac, I'm definitely picking Biggie without a doubt. I was gonna say Tupac, but I was like, wait, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not picking him. I just think he has more like powerful lyrics, and like it's almost like he expected death to come sooner than later, so he just makes this album to just kind of talk about. I don't know. It's a different take on death, I feel like.
This album was released like, what was it, 16 days I think it was after he died, so it was kind of like, I don't know, I wasn't around at the time, so I don't know if it was like completely unexpected, like the main, like population didn't know that this album was going to be dropped. So I'm kind of curious if that had any effect on it too, because like you hear an artist dies and then they drop like an album specifically titled Life After Death. That would be a little like creepy, I guess. Big coincidence, I should say.
A coinkydink.
All right. What's your number 5?
So my pick is also from a group that got a lot done in a little amount of time, kind of like Biggie did. But this is on the complete opposite scale of music. And this is Joy Division's Closer. And as I said, Joy Division, they did a lot in the little amount of time they had. I think it's like 1976 to 1980. They released 2 albums, Unknown Pleasures and Closer, and both of those, like, so basically their style is, it's like punk, but it's mixed with like this electronica, like dance music, and then it's led behind like Ian Curtis's like, like low tone, like not necessarily like screechy voice, but just kind of it's
kind of like dramatic, like he like
dramatic. I'd say it's like very dramatic, and while I think he's a controversial figure because some people love him and some people hate him. Like Cameron over here didn't particularly love him. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think for that type of music, it was like one of those like perfect place, right time, perfect place type of scenarios. I, however, wouldn't like him in any other context.
I mean, when you were showing me them, it was I really liked the instrumentals. The instrumentals were somewhat unique, and their sound entirely is unique. I feel like if I listened to them more, I would like them. It's just like it's almost kind of like how Radiohead was to me, where I just had to keep listening to it until like the song clicked. Yeah, till the song clicked, and I feel like this would be like a similar thing.
But we don't know. Ian Curtis might have had a lot more to. But again, like most of the people, at least on my list, is just like you don't know if they're going to be like amazing or if they're just like if it's beginner's luck. I think Ian Curtis is definitely the definition of beginner's luck. Like we don't know what would have happened after, but we know that his beginning stuff's definitely good. But unfortunately, killed himself because he had like a mix of epilepsy and depression, and apparently that's not a good mix.
I feel like that kind of makes you appreciate like I think we were discussing this prior to it. I don't mean to get too off a topic, but I feel like to go off what you said, a lot of these artists, I don't think that they would have had the same success if they hadn't passed or ended it so early. No pun intended on ended it. I mean like their career, not their lives, But
technically both.
But it's just like that what if scenario, like other bands that we'll mention. It's like what would happen if they continued? Would we appreciate them the same way?
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd say is but this I'm assuming most people probably haven't heard Joy Division. Maybe I don't know. I think it's very few people kind of do know. Like if you know who they are, you know who they are. But if you don't, then you absolutely have no clue of them. And it's weird because like I don't particularly love like the super duper British sounding music like the Smiths, but it's basically their style is basically the Smiths if the Smiths were punk, and like they'd be like this band that you'd listen to like in a hole in the wall like venue, and you just I don't know, you're just kind of with the moment. So
maybe that's why you like them more, is because they're not played as much as the Smiths. Maybe if they were played like the Smiths, you wouldn't like them as much.
Hate the Smiths. All right, let's go on to your number 4.
Okay, we're going to go a little less depressing. This is one of the few bands or artists that we mentioned that haven't really died. Just kind of like split. That is, of course, Rage Against the Machine, their final album, Battle of Los Angeles. Now, I feel like you could argue that Rage Against the Machine is still going with Prophets of Rage because they really only lost Zach De La Rocha.
Yeah, they only the biggest dude in the group.
Tom Morello's way bigger than Zach De La Rocha. Tom Morello is literally like one of the most iconic guitarists of like the 90s of the 2000s.
He is, but I mean, the other person. Wait, what?
Zach De La Rocha definitely made Rage Against the Machine as recognizable with his voice and everything, but I feel like Tom Morello is probably the most influential of the Rage Against the Machine.
I'm sorry, what do you kind of keep saying?
What?
I think it's
I'm sorry. De La Rocha?
De La Rocha, bro. Or De La Rocha.
De La Rocha? What did I say? Derola?
Yeah, you just kept saying Derola. I was like, is he like hidden, or is there like something that's...
Derola. I was thinking of the RTJ song, Just. And
just keep on going, bro.
They pronounce it funny in that. That's how I always pronounce it.
Yeah, you must be a diehard Rage fan. Go ahead.
No, not Rage fan. RTJ fan. I mean, I'm an avid Rage Against the Machine fan. Battle of Los Angeles is definitely like their most iconic. I feel like if Killing in the Name of wasn't like a song, that this would be their most recognizable album. It is their most recognizable album, but I feel like a lot of people look at Killing in the Name of's. Was that self-titled? What was the one with the Buddhist burning himself? That was a self-titled. That's what I thought. But this album definitely contains some of the most recognizable Rage Against the Machine. Sleep Now in the Fire, Guerrilla Radio, Testify, all of those are just like really punches in the face. And I feel like this album definitely continued their rumors that they were like a big communist band, especially like with songs like Sleep Now in the Fire. That song was just like pretty like aggressive, and I think it's pretty funny because like you can definitely hear like how I feel like De La Rocha was probably I don't know exactly how the band split, but I'm pretty sure it was creative differences. Like De La Rocha was like almost kicked out, I think. That's why they continued Prophets of Rage, because they have all the same members. They actually started with Audio Slave before Prophets of Rage, but I think this album was just like kind of a surprising end to, like, I don't know if people really saw it coming, but what?
Nothing.
That's not their final album. That's like the LP or the EP. Like that was like kind of like you can consider. I guess you could consider it. It's kind of like Let It Be and Abbey Road.
It's like it just does have like Zach De La Rocha. I see what you're saying. It's like the best album. Like before Zach leaves. Okay, I understand. I was just like, I still been very.
I don't know if it was obvious or not, but I was really trying to play off of Brandon there. But he was very focused on looking some stuff up, so that's why there were a lot of pauses there.
Yeah. So basically, this is every episode I have to shoot, Cameron down on something. That's just our brand, and that's just something that. Yes, I mean it's technically not their last album, but. And they're still touring. I think they are going to release music again.
Yeah.
I think it's a stupid pick for this case, but okay. As of now, technically, it is the last album without Zach De La Rocha.
Because you're talking about the one with Renegades of Funk on it. What's the title of it? It's just Rage, isn't it?
No, I think it's Renegades.
Renegades. I thought that was an LP or an EP, or I didn't think that was a full album.
I think that's a studio album.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I thought that
So his list is already messed up.
Get out of here. Again, I think that a lot of people could say that Abbey Road was the last album of the Beatles, or that Stankonia was the last album of Outkast, because you can see like the splits and the cracks in the group. So I think you can make the argument that this is their last real album.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna let it go.
He's really conflicted. He really does not like that.
No, I didn't like this pick at all, but it's fine. We're gonna go. I guess my number 4 is also gonna be kind of like, technically studio album wise, it would be their last, but mine is gonna be In Utero by Nirvana. I think this and MTV Unplugged, which I will say MTV Unplugged technically came after, but it's not like technically a studio album. But I believe those are like two of like Nirvana's best albums. Serve the Serpent is better than their Nevermind track debut, which is, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
That's bold. That is.
I'm living with it. But there's other bops in here like Heart Shaped Box, Rape Me, Dumb, Pennyroyal Tea, and, even All Apologies. I think All Apologies is probably overall the best song on this album.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know. This album was like them taking a back seat from like mainstream media, but they also kind of had to like... They had an image they had to uphold, and I think most of the time, I usually don't care about how an album itself is produced or where it's produced, because it's all basically the same process. I mean, more what the artist puts into it. But what I think is cool about how this album was recorded, it was basically like recorded over a 2-week period, and basically the band went to, I think it's Pachyderm Studios, which is a little bit outside of Minneapolis, but it's like in this like forested area, and like they were just there for like 2 weeks, just secluded and by themselves. And what's amazing to me is like, we always look at celebrities like larger than life, but this is just like 3 dudes and like a producer coming together and like, all right guys, let's make some music. But they're like friends, like it's like buddies. They're just like kind of chill. They're like kind of doing like what you and I are doing now, just maybe much better.
Yeah, they had a lot more success with it. I don't want to talk too much about this album because it's gonna show up again later. So I'll just agree with you for now before I put my opinion in. So my third pick, again, another album that I think that could down the line maybe not be a final album, but right now it doesn't look like there's gonna be much hope for it, and that is Icky Thump by the White Stripes. So this album is very unique in the sense that I feel like there's just so many random, like, maybe not random, but there's just so many abstract sounds on this album. I know like there's one, like there's vocals on this album that I thought were like little kids singing, but I'm pretty sure it's Meg White singing, and that's just how she sounds, and I think it's really funny. But this album definitely is just like, it has like that just punch in the face. Like I really like the unique sound of this album. This album was only recorded in 3 weeks too. It was I'm kind of curious to see if they would ever get back together, because if you think about it, I think this album it came after they had their divorce, because Jack White and Meg were married, but they split, and I think this album came after that. And I feel like there was like, before I had even realized that, there was like some sort of like tension I felt like on this album. Like it was just like, it was kind of aggressive in some parts, and I was wondering if they had a divorce after this album, which I thought was kind of funny, and they did, but they weren't married for too long. It was only like for like 4 years, and I'm pretty sure this album came out well after that.
Yeah, I think either the White Stripes self-titled or White Blood Cells or Elephant's better, but I think this is a good final album. I think it'll probably be there. I don't think they're going to go back. I don't think they're going to come back together, and if they do, it's only going to be for like the touring circuit, just to kind of do songs that they've already done. I think Jack White's solo career is just too poppin' right now, or it's whatever he wants it to be. So
I think it's also kind of like notable in a way, because didn't like all of their other albums have like that red and white and black like look on it? Yeah. And then this one was just like black. Like it was just like you could tell that it was like not like the others, you know.
It symbolized the end.
Yeah. And it's kind of a shame because I feel like the White Stripes just are, as a band, they lived in that shadow of Seven Nation Army, which is by far one of, like, their, you know, not impressive. So, you know, like, it's just...
It smells like Teen Spirit.
It is the Smells Like Teen Spirit of the White Stripes, which is a shame because, like, the rest of their discography is actually really good, and this album is pretty good too. I feel like I've been listening to it a little bit. I've been hearing it on the radio a little bit more, specifically the self-titled song, Icky Thump. More, I think, because of there was a trailer that used it. I think it was the Justice League trailer or something like that. And then I feel like a lot of people, it kind of rekindled the fire of this album, more specifically the song, but that is how I got turned on to this album. And I think that it's a kick butt album. Not as aggressive as my last pick, but it's still definitely, you know, you could tell it was like their goodbye.
Yeah, some of my favorite songs by them, self-titled Icky Thump, that is a Bad to the Bone song. And speaking of Bad to the Bone, we have Rag and Bone, which is another great White Stripes song. Even though my favorite is probably going to be Hotel Yorba or Ball and Biscuit by them. I don't know. They just have like such like a, not necessarily diverse style of music, but it's unique to themselves. So I was very sad to see them go. Hopefully they perform again, but hopefully they don't make another album.
I think just the last thing I'll say too is I always find their sound very impressive because they're only a two-man and one-man band. I feel like they have a very big energy that and that just might be how it's produced. But let's get on to your number 3 pick.
So I think I mentioned him in one of my other lists. Not exactly sure which one I have. We've done so many of these. But so I'm going to go Pink Moon by Nick Drake. So if you guys haven't listened to my other one, whatever episode that was, so Nick Drake is basically an artist that has this very folksy acoustic feel. And, you know, you kind of feel like you're living in Candyland when you listen to him. And if you walk into like a grunge-style coffee shop, like his type of music is like the chill type of music that you want playing in the atmosphere. And he's very comparable to like Amy Winehouse because they're both like very British artists that, you know, drugs just took them like way too soon. I think he found more appeal maybe after death. I don't know if he would be a case of like being discovered after death because I think he was somewhat not famous, but somewhat known. But I think death has catapulted him into being found by certain people like me. And if anyone knows me, I'm the type of person who would find him. But no, I think he's an amazing artist, and this is a very like chill. Like it's like ASMR videos. Like, you know, it's like very like if you listen to them, you're gonna fall asleep and you're gonna feel amazing. Songs such as Pink Moon, Place to Be, Horn, Things Will Be, Free Ride, Harvest Breed, and The Ending from the Morning are just simply like magnificent. And his other albums, Five Leaves First and Brighter Later, also have a very chill tone to them as well. But I think this is his best.
His songs are super short, isn't this album has like 11. It has like 11 songs on it, and I think it's under 30 minutes.
It's like 28 minutes.
Yeah, all of his songs are like 2 minutes, like 1 minute.
And I'm the type of dude who just likes to get to the punch anyway, so it's beautiful.
I actually thought that he was influenced by Pink Floyd, but he came out before Pink Floyd was really like taken off. He came out at the same time, which is also kind of funny because they used the same. I don't know if it was producer, wasn't it? John Wood. And you can definitely tell from like the art style and like just I feel like sound that I don't know if it's what John Wood brings to the table or if he looks for artists that sound the same way. But this album came out in 1972, which is when Pink Floyd was starting to take off. So I don't know if it was just like it's another one of those cases again where it's like I wonder what he would have continued to sound like if he would have been like on par with Pink Floyd, because I feel like he has that same style, and you could consider this his metal, like his his gateway, like finding his footing. So it's just really curious, you know. It's
I bet if he was part of the 27th club, which he missed by a few months, I think like 7 months. Not a few, that's a lot.
Oh, he was 26?
Yeah, he was 26. Just imagine. If he would have been 27,
he would have been big famous.
He would have been part of the Cool Kids Club.
Cool Kids Club. All right.
Speaking of 27.
Speaking of 27, both of our picks for number 2 are 27 clubbers, aren't they? So, again, said this album was going to show up again, In Utero by Nirvana. I think this might be my favorite Nirvana album, just because it's definitely it's tied with Nevermind. I think Nevermind is overall a more iconic album, but In Utero is iconic in its own way in the sense that it was very controversial when it came out. There was a lot of disturbing imagery with like Heart-Shaped Box's music video. You know, there was a lot of like crazy stuff going on in that. And people were constantly interpreting, like, what each of those songs meant. You know, like, I think it was just very, and I don't want to say, like, more, like, gritty than the rest of their stuff, because all of their stuff has always been very, like, they've just talked about a lot of random, like, down, like, it just makes me think of like an alleyway almost. Like it makes me think of Seattle. That like their sound is just like very Seattle-ish, very grungy, which makes sense. But this album has a lot of like talk about like babies in it, you know, like, which I guess kind of makes sense with its title. But yeah, I think I think that this album definitely kicks a lot of butt. It just is a lot more raw. It's like less produced from like Nevermind. Like when the opening tracks and like Serve the Servants, it's just so raw, and I really like that. And then like I said, the lyrics later on mention a lot of it's just all over the place. It's a very good album.
Yeah, quick thing that I'll say is if they would have kept going, they probably would just have been Pearl Jam. Unfortunately, maybe not. Maybe more unique version of Pearl Jam, but I still don't think. I think if Kurt Cobain doesn't die, they just sink.
I think that their sound was stuck in the 90s, and they wouldn't have made it past the 90s with their sound. They would have either had to do like a complete change of, like, they would have had to done like a complete 180, or they would have broken up or something like that.
Now we have the Foo Fighters. So
now we have the Foo Fighters, yeah. So it's just interesting. It's definitely a really good final album. There's no denying that.
Now, on to my 27 clubber, the Cool Kids Club, we got Electric Ladyland. And, you know, it's just so funny how it feels like every episode we've brought up, like, Jimi Hendrix, but it's, like, almost hard not to. It's
not we, you love Jimi. I've brought up Jimi Hendrix once, I think, in one of my lists, so.
But, you know, we love him here at Fighting the Whoop, and that's why we include him on so many lists. And, you know, like the other folk on this list, Death kind of not necessarily did him a favor, but I think he still, like Eric Clapton, he was still always going to produce something, but, like, there's just a mystique that comes with him dying that just, like, makes his legacy cemented. And 3 beautiful albums and many amazing, like Monterey Pop and like Woodstock, like just his performances there are so iconic. If he goes past that, he might just become like kind of like a washed up like drug addict or something, because he was like on barbiturates at the end. I mean, that's how he died. He probably would have ended up being still iconic, you know, still kind of someone like James Brown. But, you know, I don't know, I think Death's kind of cool for him. But I will say this is like his most creative album. I know you can make the argument that Axe is Bold as Love is, but I don't know, just like this album just kind of flows differently than a lot of his other ones. It includes songs such as Crosstown Traffic, Rainy Day, Dream Away, All Along the Watchtower, and while I might take Bob Dylan's version over his version, which is a hot take,
that is hot.
I just kind of like how he kind of makes it his own song, kind of like what Aretha Franklin does, as we talked about in the Mount Rushmore video. And then Voodoo Child's Slight Return and 1983 are just pretty solid pick. So I don't know. I think he would still have made good music, but I think it's almost good that he landed here.
Not to get off track, but you want to hear a hot take? I think my favorite cover of All Along the Watchtower was by Dave Matthews. I think Dave Matthews has the best All Along the Watchtower cover.
Okay, you freaking weirdo.
It's so good. It's so good. If you haven't heard it, you should listen to it. But yeah, this album is definitely really good. I think Are You Experienced is probably going to be my favorite Jimi Hendrix album. But this album has no shortage of love from me. It's cover's pretty iconic. I feel like just like his face in that like thermal-esque like filter is very iconic, especially to All Along the Watchtower, because that might be one of his most well-known songs next to Purple Haze or Voodoo Child. And I know, at least like when I'm talking to people, I have a lot of people go like, that's not by Jimi Hendrix. Or I think when I was a young up and coming music listener, I thought it was by Jimi Hendrix. I was surprised to hear that it was a cover. You know, like he really does just make it his own, and this album is very just like it's again. I hate repeating myself, but it's just always going to be. I feel like a lot of people say like, I really wish they would have stayed around because they would have continued to make really good music, and while that might be true for a lot of cases, or for some cases, I feel like a lot of cases, you don't appreciate their sound until it's gone, you know. You could even make that argument for a lot of like modern day artists. Like I know Juice WRLD, I haven't got into him, but like I feel like he got a lot of attention and a lot of appreciation after he passed. So I feel like we might have gotten burnt out. Maybe just not with Jimi Hendrix, but the sound that was coming from the early 70s, that like the iconic rock was going to eventually burn out. So I think there's definitely more appreciation for Jimi Hendrix because he passed.
Right. And then last member of the 27 Club on your list was your number one pick.
It's my number. Yeah, probably the most iconic 27 member club is David Bowie and his Black Star.
He wasn't 27. That's a strong disclaimer. He was actually very old.
He wasn't too old, but yeah, he was pretty old. David Bowie is one of those very few artists. He was on my Mount Rushmore because he has one of the most expansive discographies, but probably one of the best of like that like expansiveness. He had some abstract sounds in the 90s, but I still feel like his lows are not even lows compared to other artists, especially with a discography so giant as his. And his Final Goodbye is one of the most like hair-raising albums I've ever listened to. He's tying up loose ends with this album, and like the self-titled song Black Star is about Major Tom from way back when. It's just like every song on here is just like has some sort of connection and some sort of like farewell to it. Lazarus is one of the like biggest tearjerkers, especially like because this album came out prior to his death, but one of the most famous lyrics from this album is "I won't be here Monday," and he died that weekend when this album was released from cancer, and it was just absolutely like it was just mysterious. Like and that's what David Bowie's always been, was just like this like figure. He's kind of like almost like Prince in the sense that like I knew him, but I didn't really know him. Like he was just like nobody really knew David Bowie's like true intentions or like what was going on in his head or anything. He always just like he was always just there. And his goodbye was just very elegant. I'm very surprised this didn't even make your list because I feel like this is one of the best like closures to anyone's discography, hence why it's my number one pick. Yeah, yeah.
It would have been probably, it would have been 5 or 6. It was a close call. I just think it's because it's not my favorite Bowie album that it didn't make my 5, or didn't make my top 5, but it was very close. It was hard. It was like, we've used this analogy before, but it's like picking like which child you want to die. You have to pick one.
Oh my god.
No. But no, seriously, it is a great album. It's one of the best goodbyes of all time. I remember this. David Bowie's the reason I check my phone before I take a shower to find out if anyone died. Because I think how old would we have been? Like middle school?
It was 2016.
Oh, 2016. So high school.
It was high school, yeah.
Because I remember.
It was my last year of high school.
Yep, I remember because I always started my morning by taking a shower and then checking my phone. And when I checked my phone, I saw David Bowie die, and I was like, man, that would have been cool to like check my phone and then take like a mournful shower, you know? So if you want to know why I look at Twitter before I go in the shower, that's why.
Yeah, he and Prince died the same year.
Yeah. It was weird because like I remember like around that time is when I started really falling in love with Prince, and I was just talking with someone, like maybe a girl version of you, about it at lunch, like literally about Prince. No, it was weird. It was It's one of the weirdest coincidences of all time. We were talking about like, she was talking about like the albums she owns by him, and I didn't collect vinyl at that time, but I was talking about the albums I could listen by them and loved, and then like next period went by and I see her, she like sees me in the hall and she's like, dude, did you hear Prince died? And I was like, what? And I checked and I was like, oh my god, like we were just talking about him, like just. And I feel like Prince is not someone you can just like randomly, you can talk about him now, but like, I feel like at the time it was like weird for high schoolers to just like talk about him at the lunch table. So it was just like a weird coincidence. Both were weird coincidences, and Alan Rickman was too. That was just another one that blew me off, because I think that happened around the same time as well.
Back on track.
I can go into my number one if you.
I've pretty much said everything. I feel like this album might be a little bit of a hard listen to some, especially the opening track. It's very abstract sounding, but David Bowie had a lot of those songs that were more like for the radio, and then more that were like a little bit harder to listen to for some. But I think that he just really captured his overall just sound, like of his entire career. I think that it's a very good like punctuation on it. But yeah, let's hear your number one.
It's funny because we made this reference I've made this reference a few times by the 27 Club, but Amy Winehouse, Back to Black, just, I think I picked this as my number one because it's just like the most tragic of like the best final albums, because she doesn't really expect it to be her final album, but like, you know, just like everything that was going on in her life, she talks about through the album, and it's very gritty, but at the same time she makes it a very like pop like sound. And I honestly, I think if the world took anyone too soon, it was Amy Winehouse, and I honestly don't think death did her justice at all. She had a lot to offer left, and that's what's kind of tragic about her. And if Adele never comes in the picture, then we don't really have a female singer with like as much stoicism that Amy Winehouse had. But Amy also kind of created Adele and some of those other artists in a way, because, you know, she kind of paved the way for like the new British soul invasion that took place in like mid 2000s all the way up to like probably the mid 2010s, probably still going on in a way. But, you know, she has like her serious songs on here, like Rehab and Back to Black, like they bop, like, and like those high mainstream songs are just as good as some of like the medium and low song, like not mainstream but low stream songs, like You Know I'm No Good, Tears Dry on Their Own, and Addicted. They just
really, you think You Know I'm No Good and Tears Dry on Their Own are the less memorable ones?
I'd say Rehab. I'd say Rehab and Back to Black are definitely the top. I'd say they're medium tier. I think Addicted is probably like the lower tiered, but You Know I'm No Good and Tears Dry on Their Own is like
really.
I don't know. I could be crazy.
A lot of people would disagree with you, I think, because those were like her biggest hits.
Well, if you disagree with me, just DM me and I'll give you my address and you can come beat me with the baseball bat. I don't care.
I think Tears Dry on Their Own. Yeah, sorry. That's still on the U.S. chart as one of the top. It's like number 152 or something like that. Like, it's still on the charts.
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But, yeah. So, who's the real Amy Winehouse appreciated?
Not you.
No, it's not me. I actually haven't really got into. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else you want to say? Did I cut you too early?
I'll let you finish.
I was gonna say I haven't listened to Amy Winehouse prior to you and me starting this, and I was surprised to find out that this was only her second album. Like, it was very kind of like, yeah, it was her breakthrough, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's again. I think I compared it to Nick Drake, where like they're about to like kick off. Like, they found their sound, and they had a lot more to offer. Like, Death did not do them justice. In my list, Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain, those were probably like the Death sort of, not necessarily did them justice because they didn't really do anything wrong, but like if Death doesn't come, they might become irrelevant. But Amy Winehouse and Nick Drake become more relevant the more they go on to it. But if you haven't listened to this album, I'd say it's like, I describe it as like Motown meets Dusty Springfield meets the Beach Boys meets Otis Redding.
That's quite the collection.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's one of my favorites. It always seems to move up on my favorite albums list. That's the one I can't wait to hear on vinyl. Or own on vinyl. So if anyone wants to send that our way, I can DM you the address. I'm just.
You really want to get your address out there, don't you?
It's 9347 Pollock Avenue.
This is going on the internet.
It's not actually my address. It's not. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a real address. If we're being honest.
I thought you just listed off your address. I was like,
sorry, whoever lives at 9453 Pollock Avenue, Shermantown, Ohio. I don't even think that's a real place. If it is, I'm sorry. You're going to get a free Amy Winehouse vinyl or get beat with that. But do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I'm not too knowledgeable on Amy Winehouse, so I can't really contribute much more than I already have. Definitely want to get into her though. She definitely, especially with 2 albums, it's as big of a reference as she's become. I think that she's definitely close on the top of my list of artists to get into.
We appreciate every single one of you this season, and we're not going to give you the good like Beatles goodbye. Like, this is the end. This is just the end of the season. But we appreciated everyone who listened to our stuff, and everyone who continues to listen to us, and who will listen to us in 20 years. We're basically, I think what was good about this season is that we just like kind of learn like our structure and what works and what didn't, and what you guys like and what we like to do. So it was like it was like a trial and error, and we enjoyed every single step of it. And I think every day you're supposed to wake up and learn something new, and every time we did this we learned something new. And if we didn't learn something new about the process, we learned about ourselves. No, but we greatly appreciate you guys listening, and we can't wait to bring you more episodes in the future. And we all hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.